one thing that's interesting, we didn't even make it through like the first little paragraph of this the first time we went through it, but a huge part of it's not so much like related to Awareness Month or anything, but the mind having such a factor in all this is like to like if somebody sees something like an action scene and it's some gunfight or something, there might be like a standout scene to them and they can visualize and perceive that scene in their head or like talk about it with people, etc. Where of all the points that we covered, which we didn't even like get through, we got through maybe 6 sentences or something and talked for a while and went into all these things, but then it's like to have that as clear in mind as something like a cool car chase scene or something in a movie is so tricky. But it's like one of those things where if you don't have a lot of contextual, it's not a regular thing, then anytime that you encounter something that's like that, there's no real framework in the mind or like structure or what's the word, like habitual way of retaining that information or that essence to carry forward, because it's such a rarity.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Because we've seen like 20 car chases, to imagine a car chase or like to see a car chase and have it stick in mind is pretty easy, because it's like, oh yeah, you don't have to think, okay, what's a car and like all this other stuff and get all of those details in mind. Kind of like how people might look at bicycles and they all draw them funny because they don't really pay attention and whatever, and like that's the way that people look at this type of stuff.
Yeah, totally.
While looking at the action clips of cool gunfights and sword fights and whatever is so normal in our framework that it's easy to stick with us.
It's similar to someone writing a book, and when you can just say this story takes place at a coffee shop, it's like, okay, a coffee shop, I know what that is. If you say a medieval tavern, pretty good idea, maybe a little less clear depending on who you are and how much familiarity you have with the medieval tavern. But then you say it takes place in a society where people have floating blocks on electrical grid lines that go through the sky, and it's it's like whatever.
You don't even have to go that far.
Yeah.
But just something like coffee shop, medieval tavern. In like a properly, fully functioning world, neither of those terms would be used to describe those places. Because coffee shop, for one, shops probably would be very functionally different.
Yeah.
They wouldn't drink coffee. A tavern usually informs like of alcoholic drinks and stuff.
Yeah.
That wouldn't exist. Like you would have totally different terminology for these things, but we existed in a world where that's the thing. So now it'd be like, what if we lived in a world where instead of that stuff taking off, it was like theaters and play or circus type of stuff, like that carnival-y thing? Or what if it was like monastery-ish and there's all sorts of different types of ashrams and churches and whatever? Like there'd just be totally different terminology on describing the outing, the place you go for an outing to hang out with people and have a few sips of like a drink. That would be completely different terminology. But if stories are always told from this adventuring guild, and the adventuring guild is mostly a bunch of brutes that go fight dragons and
drink
deal with thieves and like whatever else, that's like the framework.
Yeah.
Because if you grew up and there weren't all these fantastical stories, or you didn't encounter them, if you heard words like tavern or something,
you wouldn't know.
Heroes Guild or whatever, Starship Enterprise or something, and instead of it being like this, I don't know what that is. Star Trek isn't actually too bad compared to a lot of them, but like the Empire and the Death Star, and like, whatever.
Just
else.
common things.
Like if that's so in the framework, so it's like when you say a car chase. Yeah. Okay. Cool. The movie had a car chase. Yeah, and it was like this, and they went through a tunnel. It's like, you know what a car chase through a tunnel looks like. It's just so there. But it was like they went to like World 24. Were just they're hanging lights on this thing, and the birds fly out of them to light up the valley. It's like, birds light up the valley. What? I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
And it's just as fantastical as shooting laser guns, but instead of like shooting laser guns at each other, it's these laser birds that are flying out of little orbs you hang on lights to light up a valley during night.
Yeah,
like,
and you
it's
know,
just different.
it's like you could